The unspoken bonds of life. The room was silent except for the rhythmic beeping of the heart monitor. Sunlight filtered through the blinds, casting fractured shadows on the pale green walls. Sara lay on the hospital bed, her once vibrant face now pale and sunken. She had always been the glue of her family, the one who silently bore everyone's burdens. Yet now, as she hovered between life and death, the irony of her situation struck hard. Her sister Clara sat at her bedside, her hands clasped in silent prayer. Tears streamed down Clara's face, her lips trembling as she whispered, "Please don't leave us, Sara. I'll do better. I'll make time for you. Just come back to us." But where were these promises when Sara was alive and well? 1 week earlier, Sara was the kind of person who always showed up for others, even when they didn't show up for her. Birthdays, anniversaries, emergencies, she was there. Yet, the effort was rarely reciprocated. Her texts often went unanswered. Her invitations declined with vague excuses. She never complained, though. She told herself that love wasn't about keeping score. Still, deep down, she felt the sting of neglect. Her sister Clara, always busy with work and social obligations, rarely found time for her. Their once close bond had become a distant echo of childhood memories. On a rare day off, Sara decided to call Clara. "Hey, Clara, how about lunch tomorrow? It's been ages since we spent time together," Sara said, her voice laced with cautious optimism. There was a pause on the other end. "Oh, I'd love to, but I've got this meeting, and afterward, I need to prep for a presentation. Maybe next week," Clara replied, her tone perfunctory. "Sure, next week," Sara said, forcing cheerfulness into her voice. But next week never came. A few days later, Sara was driving home from the grocery store when a truck ran a red light and slammed into her car. The impact was devastating. Paramedics arrived within minutes, and she was rushed to the hospital, unconscious and barely clinging to life. When Clara received the call, her world tilted. Suddenly, the meetings, deadlines, and social obligations that had seemed so important felt insignificant. Guilt gnawed at her as she sat in the waiting room, replaying every missed opportunity to connect with her sister. Her parents arrived shortly after, their faces etched with worrying and grief. Her father paced the room while her mother sobbed quietly into a handkerchief. Clara sat frozen, clutching her phone, staring at the last text Sara had sent.
"Hope you're doing okay. Let me know if you need anything."
Clara hadn't replied. News of Sara's accident spread quickly. Friends and distant relatives began to flood the hospital, their faces drawn with sorrow. The waiting room overflowed with people who spoke in hushed tones about how wonderful Sara was, how she had touched their lives in ways, big and small.
"She always remembered my birthday,"
one friend said, tears glistening in her eyes.
"She volunteered at the shelter every weekend."
Another added,
"She helped me through my divorce,"
said a coworker, his voice thick with emotion. Clara listened, her guilt deepening with every word. How could so many people have felt Sara's impact while she, her own sister, had overlooked her? Hours turned into days, and Sara remained unconscious. The doctors were grim in their assessments.
"Her condition is critical. If she doesn't wake up soon, the chances of recovery are slim."
One of them explained gently. Clara stayed by Sara's side, talking to her, reminiscing about their childhood, and pleading for her to wake up. "Remember when we used to sneak cookies from the jar and blame it on the cat?" she said, a sad smile tugging at her lips. "You always took the blame when Mom found out. You've always been there for me. Sara, please, let me be there for you now." She realized, painfully, that she had taken Sarah's presence for granted. She had assumed there would always be time to reconnect, time to make amends, time to show her love. One evening, Clara stepped outside for fresh air. The winter chill bit at her cheeks as she looked up at the night sky. The stars twinkled, indifferent to her pain, and she thought about how fleeting life was. She pulled out her phone and began scrolling through old photos of Sarah, pictures of them as kids, laughing at the beach, of Sarah beaming with pride at Clara's college graduation, of the two of them in matching Christmas sweaters. "I should have told you how much you mean to me," Clara whispered into the night. Suddenly, her phone buzzed. It was a message from one of Sarah's friends.
Sara always talked about how proud she was of you. She loved you so much. Clara, I thought you should know.
Clara broke down in tears. The next morning, Clara was startled awake by a faint sound. She looked up and saw Sarah's fingers twitching. Her eyelids fluttered open, and she let out a weak, raspy breath. "Clara," Sarah whispered, her voice barely audible. Clara rushed to her side, tears streaming down her face. "Sarah, you're awake. Thank God, you're awake." Sarah managed a faint smile.
What's with all the tears? Did someone cancel Christmas?
Clara laughed through her sobs. "Don't you dare scare us like that again. I've been such an idiot. I'm so sorry, Sarah. I've taken you for granted. And I promise I'll do better. I'll make time for you. I'll show you how much you mean to me." Sarah squeezed her hand weakly.
You're here now, that's what matters.
Sarah's recovery was slow but steady. True to her word, Clara became a constant presence in her life. They started having weekly sister dates, where they would catch up over coffee or go for walks in the park. Clara also began reaching out to other loved ones, making an effort to nurture her relationships. She realized how easy it was to let life's busyness overshadow what truly mattered. Sarah, too, gained a new perspective. She saw the outpouring of love and realized how deeply she was cherished. Even if it wasn't always outwardly expressed, she decided to live more openly, to let people know how much she appreciated them. Life went on, but it was different now. Sarah and Clara had learned a lesson. The hard way, love and gratitude, should never be left unspoken. In the end, it wasn't the near tragedy that defined their story, but the changes it inspired. They became a reminder to everyone around them that life is fleeting and unpredictable, and that every moment is an opportunity to show love, express gratitude, and cherish those who matter. Because, as they now knew, tomorrow is never guaranteed.